I got the divorce papers by email while I was still in the desert. 13 years of marriage ended in a PDF attachment. Name's Nathan. I'm 42. Staff Sergeant, 82nd Airborne. I was 4 months into a deployment in Kandahar when Becky decided she was done. The subject line read, "Let's be adults about this." 3 sentences followed. She'd already filed. She'd already drained our joint account. She'd already moved her new boyfriend Jeremy into our home in Spokane. I read it twice, shut the laptop, took a cold shower in the communal stall, dressed for my shift, and didn't say a word. That night, back at my bunk, I typed one word in reply. Understood. No pleading, no drama, no threats. Wilson, my bunkmate, glanced over from his book. "You good, man?" "Yeah," I said, "just stuff back home." He nodded. End of conversation. Military guys know when to leave something alone. Truth is, I wasn't shocked. 6 months before deployment, things started shifting small at first. Becky stopped asking about my day. Started working late at the dental office. Started hitting the gym 3 times a week, but never seemed to sweat. New clothes. New friends I never met. New passcode on her phone. I didn't confront her. That's not me. I don't snoop. I don't chase shadows. But I'm not blind either. So I took precautions, quietly. I rented a storage unit across town, moved in the essentials: birth certificate, marriage license, house deed in my name. Thanks to the VA loan military paperwork, I added my grandfather's watch and my mom's silver, things that mattered. Then I opened a separate account at a different bank, diverted part of my pay to Rena, not enough to raise flags, just enough so I wouldn't be broke if things turned. The night before I deployed, she hugged me at the airport. "Stay safe, okay?" Her eyes were dry, like she was saying goodbye to a coworker, not a husband going to war. I should have known then, but part of me still hoped. I was wrong. What she didn't know was that I was ready for this. And what she didn't understand was that I don't start fights, but I do finish them. We met in 2010 at a buddy's barbecue. I was home between tours, crashing with my friend Jason. Becky was finishing nursing school, but ended up doing admin at a dental office. Less stress, she said. We were married 8 months later. She used to say she was proud of my service, but she didn't get it. Her dad was a bank manager, her brother a pharmacist, no military in the family. She once asked when I was going to get a real job, not realizing the Army was my career, not just something I was killing time with. In 2014, we bought a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. My name was on the mortgage, but I added her to the deed. That's what married people do, share things. My dad died a year later, heart attack while shoveling snow. My mom passed 3 years after lung cancer, never smoked a day in her life. They left me some money, not life-changing, but enough to wipe out our student loans and build a savings cushion. I deployed 4 times during our marriage, 2 tours in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan, and each time I came home, Becky felt a little more distant, a little more like someone waiting for her cue to exit. "I didn't sign up to be a military wife," she said once when I mentioned re-upping. "I'm tired of being alone." I understood, but the Army was the only place I truly belonged. I was good at it. People depended on me. In 2019, things really started to shift. She rolled her eyes when I called during her burros nights. Started quoting her friend Melissa, who divorced her husband and was finally living her best life. Started saying we didn't have much in common anymore. I suggested therapy. She said we were fine, just a rough patch. Then came the late nights, the weekend trips with friends I never met, the gym gear that stayed clean. Again, I didn't confront her. I watched, quietly, because my gut knew, and a soldier learns to trust his gut. 2 weeks after that email, I was eating in the mess hall when my phone buzzed. Bank alert, another withdrawal. $88,500. I stared at the screen. The joint account balance was down to $22.37. Our savings for $7,000 gone. Transferred to an account I didn't recognize. Murphy, one of the guys, Noticed. Bad news. I locked my phone. Nah, just banking stuff. That night, I used the base phone center to call the bank. Turns out she'd been siphoning money for weeks. Started small, then larger. The real grabs began the day after I deployed. I hung up, leaned against the wall, and just stood there, watching guys laugh, talk to their kids and wives. Meanwhile, my life was coming apart. Wilson found me. "Heard you looked like you saw a ghost at dinner," he said. "What's going on?" I don't usually talk about personal things, but Wilson once pulled me out of a tight spot in Kandahar. I owed him trust. My wife emptied our accounts, moved her boyfriend into our house, sent divorce papers last week while I was out on patrol. No pity from him, no canned comfort. Just, "What's your plan?" "Not sure yet," I said. He nodded. "Let me know if you need backup." That night, I couldn't sleep. I logged into our home security system, something she probably forgot I still had access to. The footage showed a truck in the driveway. A man I didn't recognize. He was walking my dog, drinking from my coffee mug, wearing my Seahawks hoodie. And Becky, she was laughing in the kitchen. I renovated with my own hands during my last leave. Something inside me shifted. Not rage. Something colder. Clearer. I closed the laptop and pulled out my phone. Started making a list. Call James, old Ermy, buddy turned attorney. Review VA loan conditions. Talk to my master sergeant about emergency leave. Revisit that home we financed Becky casually mentioned last year. Double check security on my pension and benefits accounts. I wasn't sad anymore. Anger had burned itself out. What I felt now was clarity, cold and sharp. This wasn't emotional anymore. This was tactical, a mission plan. At 0500, before my shift started, I fired off an email to James. Subject line, "Need legal help, discreet and urgent." An hour later, I had a reply, "Call me. Secure line only." By the time I hung up, I had a plan. No shouting matches, no dramatic confrontations, just patience, documentation, and leverage. She wouldn't see it coming yet until it was too late. 2 months later, I was back on American soil. I didn't tell Becky I was home, didn't call, didn't text, just checked into a motel under a different name and called James. We met at a diner 10 miles outside Spokane. "You look like you've been sleeping in a foxhole," he said as he slid into the booth. "Feels about right," I replied. He handed over a folder. Everything we talked about: house deed, bank records, loan paperwork, and this. He pulled out a separate sheet. "It's a refinance form, filed 3 months ago, supposedly signed by you." I looked at the signature. Close, but off. The middle initial was wrong. The slant was wrong. Whoever did it had tried to mimic mine, but didn't know the details. "Becky forged this?" I asked, already knowing the answer. James nodded. "Used the equity in the house to pull out $330,000, and since the VA loan is in your name, your signature is required. That makes this felony fraud." She forged my name, took out a loan, drained our accounts, and filed for divorce. Busy woman. "Gets better," James said. She listed Jeremy as a co-applicant, and he's got priors to DUIs and a fraud charge. I stared at the table for a moment. Then, "What are my options?" "You've got a few," James said, "but first, you need to decide what you want." I thought about it. I want what's legally mine, and I want her to learn that actions have consequences. James smiled. "Then here's how we play it." The next day, I drove by the house. Becky's car was in the driveway, but the boyfriend's truck was gone. I parked a block away and just watched for a while. Thought about walking up to the door, but that wasn't the mission. Instead, I went straight to the bank. Met with the loan officers who'd processed the refinance, showed my military ed, showed him my real signature, showed him the forgery. He went pale. "I'll have to report this immediately." "I understand," I said. "I've already filed a police report." That night, Becky texted me. "Who have you been talking to at the bank?" Jeremy said someone was asking questions. I didn't reply. The next day, I filed a fraud contest at the county clerk's office. placed a legal hold on the property. No sale, no changes, nothing without my written consent. Becky called. I let it go to voicemail. Nathan, we need to talk. The bank called about the house. What are you doing? If this is about the divorce, we can handle it like adults. Like adults, the same words she used in that email from Kandahar. Still didn't respond. Later that day, James called. The refinance funds have been frozen, but there's more. Jeremy got pulled over driving your truck. License is still suspended from those DUIs. Cops impounded it. Good. And they found something in the truck, prescription pads, from the dental office Becky works at. Not blank, either. I Saturday back. She's stealing prescription pads. Looks that way. The police are digging in. Back at the motel, I Saturday on the bed and tried to process it all. Part of me still wanted to call her, warn her. Old habits die hard. But then I remembered the security footage, me dog, my mug, my sweatshirt, me life, given away like it meant nothing. I met the bank's fraud investigator the next morning. I named Thompson T. Stained. I's tired. Help is more than you think, he said, laying out the documents. Spouse deploys, other spouse sees an opportunity. What happens now? We frowned the funds, but some money's already gone. How much? About $14,600. Where'd it go? He hesitated. I'm technically not allowed to say. It's my house, my signature, my money. He nodded, then turned his screen toward me. Multiple transfers, all to someone named Daniel Spencer. Who's Daniel Spencer? Thompson shrugged. Ask your lawyer. I called James right after I left. Daniel Spencer. Hang on, let me check. An hour later, he called back. Spencer's a real estate agent, deals in quick sales, cash buyers only. She was planning to sell our house. Looks that way. And here's the kicker: Spencer and Jeremy have worked together before, closed 3 shady-looking deals in the past 2 years. I Saturday on a bench near Riverfront Park, watching the water. This wasn't just an affair, this was a setup. Could be, Jeremy's got a pattern, hooks up with women going through divorces, targets military wives, helps sell their homes to Spencer's buyers usually under market value, then disappears. And Becky? Could be a mark, could be a partner. I exhaled slowly. This wasn't just betrayal, this was something bigger, systematic, predatory. What's next? I've already contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, James said. There's a case building. You might be the piece that ties it all together. That night, I Saturday in my room with a beer, thinking about everything, wondering how much of my marriage was real, and how much had been convenient for someone else's gain. My phone buzzed. Nathan, please call me. The bank is saying something about fraud, and Jeremy got arrested. I don't understand what's going on. I stared at the screen and typed, "Who is Daniel Spencer?" 3 dots. Typing. Stopped. Typing again. Stopped. Finally. I don't know what you're talking about. $14,600. Multiple transfers. House listing. No reply. 10 minutes passed. It's not what you think. I turned off my phone. The next morning, James called. FBI wants a meeting. You're not the first victim, but you might be the one who finally blows this thing open. For the first time since that desert email, I felt something close to peace. Not because the war at home was over, but because I was finally fighting back and I had a plan to win. I didn't see the need. Our mortgage payments were manageable on my salary. The tell made a note. When did that start? About 6 months ago, around the time she must have met Jeremy. And the refinance? Donovan asked. Never discussed it with me. She forged my signature while I was deployed. They asked more questions, took more notes. When we finished, Patel handed me her card. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, don't confront your wife or Jeremy. We need to build this case carefully. I nodded. Understood. That evening, I drove past our old neighborhood again, parked down the street from the house. Jeremy's truck was back, must have gotten it out of impound. Becky's car was gone. My phone buzzed. A text from Becky. We need to talk in person. Meet me at Riverfront Park tomorrow. I showed James over breakfast. Don't go, he said. Nothing good can come from talking to her right now. I won't, I said, but I do want to know what she's doing today while she thinks I'm meeting her. We parked across the street from the house at 9:30 a.m. At 9:45, Becky came out, got in her car, and drove off heading toward Riverfront Park. Now what? James asked. Now we wait. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up, real estate logo on the door, Daniel Spencer. Jeremy came out to greet him. They shook hands in the driveway, then went inside. Should we follow them? James asked. I shook my head. No need. I installed security cameras last year, interior and exterior, cloud backup. James raised an eyebrow. You never mentioned that. Never came up, I said, pulling out my phone. I opened the app and tilted the screen toward him. Spencer and Jeremy were in the living room. Spencer was taking photos. Jeremy pointed out details of the house. I turned up the volume. Should list by the end of the week, Spencer was saying. I've got a buyer, interested cash. As usual. How much? Jeremy asked. 420 KS. We list at 470 KS. They come in at 420 KS. Everybody wins. What about the husband? Becky says he's causing trouble. Spencer shrugged. Military guys are all the same. They make noise, but they've got deployments, duty. He'll take a settlement to make it go away. I looked at James. You getting this? He was already recording every word. I forwarded the camera feed access to Agent Patel with a short message. Happening now. 30 minutes later, FBI vehicles swarmed the block. From down the street, we watched as agents let Spencer and Jeremy out in handcuffs. My phone rang. We've got them on tape discussing the fraud, Patel said. Conspiracy, wire fraud, attempted sale under false pretense. We'll need a formal statement. Of course. And Mr. Briggs, your wife just arrived. She's distressed. I looked toward the house. Becky stood on the lawn, hands over her mouth, watching as agents carried boxes of evidence out the front door. What happens to her? I asked. That depends, Patel said, on what you knew and on what you want. I stared for a long moment. 13 years of marriage, good years, once before everything curdled. I just want what's right. The case moved fast. Jeremy and Spencer took plea deals, turning on each other and exposing a wider scheme of 3 states, multiple families, all military. Becky claimed she hadn't known. Said Jeremy convinced her I was hiding money, planning to leave her with nothing. Said the refinance was his idea, and she just went along with it. Maybe she was a pawn, maybe a partner. Either way, she agreed to a settlement. Full restitution of the stolen funds. Forfeiture of any claim to the house or my military pension. A signed confession to the forgery. In exchange, I didn't press charges. The divorce was finalized 6 months after that email from Kandahar. No fault, clean break. The day I signed the last set of papers, Agent Patel called. Jeremy Ryan was sentenced to 8 years. Spencer got 12. Thank you. There's something else. We found evidence they'd run this scheme on 11 other military families. Your case helped us build the pattern. They might get their money back because of you. After we hung up, I sat on the porch of my rental apartment and watched the sun go down. Thought about those families, those other soldiers, sailors, Marines who deployed trusting that everything back home was safe, only to come back to chaos. I hadn't set out to bring down a criminal ring. I just wanted what was mine. But sometimes, you start by defending your corner and end up uncovering something far bigger. That night, my phone buzzed. A text from Becky. I never meant for things to end this way. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. A year later, I sold the house. Too many memories. Too much pain in those walls. I used the money to buy a small cabin outside Missoula. 2 bedrooms, 10 acres, a creek in the back, no neighbors for miles. I took early retirement from the Army. 20 years was enough. Got a Doberman Shepherd named Scout. Started doing carpentry around town. Kept the hands busy. The pension covered the rest. Sometimes, I wonder where Becky ended up. Jane said she moved back to Oregon, working in another dental office, starting over. I didn't hate her, didn't feel much of anything, really. She'd made her choices, so had I. One day, I got a letter from a woman in Fort Worth. Her husband was Navy deployed when Jeremy and Spencer tried the same scam on her. The FBI gave her my name. "You don't know me," she wrote, "but you saved our home. Thank you. You fought back when it would have been easier to walk away." I read it twice, then pinned it to the fridge. On hard days when the silence crept in, or the memories pressed a little heavy, I glanced at that letter. It reminded me that something good had come from it all. Last I heard, Jeremy and Spencer were still in prison. The system worked for once. And me, I was still figuring things out, one quiet day at a time. Building something new. Something that couldn't be stolen, forged, or betrayed. Something that was mine.